In the previous two videos, we've seen that we have to introduce a 0 to our open loop transfer function to improve our transient response. And through the example, we saw how to specify exactly where that 0 needs to be. So now the question becomes, how do we actually implement this PD controller? How do we add that 0 to our open loop transfer function? And so let's take a look at a block diagram. So in this block diagram, we have our original plant or process, which is given by our G of H block on the right, and we have two gain blocks going forward. The one in the bottom is just K1, so that's passing a proportional version of our error signal. So this is going to be proportional, or P, and up here in the top we have K2 times S. And so recall that multiplying by S in the frequency domain is analogous to taking the derivative in our time domain. So this is going to be the derivative block, or D, so it's passing the derivative of our error signal forward. So hence where we get the name a PD controller. So PD controller. Now, how do we figure out exactly where that 0 is based on our gains K1 and K2? Well, let's take a look at the overall gain for our compensating network. So the gain for a compensating network, let's call that G sub C. And again, we're just looking at this portion right here. And of course, we can see that's going to be cascaded with our original plant G of S. So this is our plant or process. And so our G sub C is just going to be those two blocks in parallel. So we're going to have that this is equal to K2 times S plus K1. And what we can do is we can factor out K2, so we can say this is K2 times S plus K1 divided by K2. And so what we can see is that all we need to do is to adjust this gain ratio, and that's going to position our added 0 to our open loop transfer function. So we can adjust our K1 over K2 ratio to set our 0 location. Now, a good follow-up question is, well, how do we actually do that? What are we physically putting it into our system? And so unfortunately, that's something we're not going to have time to look at. But as I've referenced a few times, if you look at section 9.6 in the textbook, so section 9.6 goes over how we physically realize that. And so for this ideal PD controller, that's going to mean that we are putting active components such as op amps in our system.